You want shelter, I need an heir, the rancher's cold deal. The wind howled across the Dakota plains like it was searching for someone to break. Eliza Hart stood at the edge of the dirt road, her coat too thin for the coming winter, her arms trembling, not from the cold alone, but from fear. In her hands, wrapped in a worn blanket, slept her newborn son. He was quiet, unaware that the world had already taken everything from his mother. 3 weeks ago, Eliza had a home. 2 weeks ago, she had a husband. Now, she had nothing but a baby and a future that looked as empty as the land stretching endlessly before her. That was when she saw the ranch. It was massive, fences strong, barns standing firm against the wind, cattle grazing like they belonged to a man who feared nothing. A man who had survived when others hadn't. With no other choice left, Eliza walked toward it, each step heavier than the last. She didn't know that this walk would change 2 lives forever. Caleb Whitmore watched her from the porch, his eyes sharp beneath the brim of his hat. He was a man carved by loss and labor, broad-shouldered, quiet, and known across the county for 2 things, his success, and his cold heart. He'd buried his wife 10 years ago. Buried their unborn child with her. Since then, the ranch had grown, but his world had shrunk. When Eliza reached the steps, her legs nearly gave out. "I'm not asking for charity," she said before he could speak, her voice shaking but proud. "Just work. I can cook, clean, anything. I just need a place to stay until winter passes." Caleb's gaze fell to the bundle in her arms. "That yours?" he asked. She nodded. "My son." Something flickered behind his eyes. Not kindness. Not yet. Something calculating. "Come inside," he said finally. The deal came that night, spoken plainly, without warmth. "You want shelter," Caleb said, sitting across from her at the long wooden table. "I need an heir." Eliza froze. "I don't understand." "This ranch dies with me," he continued. "I won't let that happen. Your boy, he needs a future. I can give him one. Food. Education. A name. In return, he becomes my legal heir." Silence filled the room. "You take my child," she whispered. "I'd raise him," Caleb said. "Better than the world will." Tears burned her eyes. Every part of her wanted to run. But where? Winter was coming. Hunger was certain. Death was close. "What about me?" she asked. "You stay," he replied. "As long as you're needed." It was cold. Practical. Cruel. But when Eliza looked down at her son, she saw his tiny fingers curl around hers. And she knew something worse than heartbreak awaited him if she refused. "I agree," she said softly. "For his sake." Caleb nodded once. "Then we have a deal." Life on the ranch settled into a rhythm. Eliza worked from dawn to night, cooking, mending, tending animals with the strength of someone who refused to be broken. Caleb kept his distance, watching more than speaking. But babies have a way of softening even the hardest ground. The boy, named Thomas, laughed easily. His small hands reached for Caleb's beard. His cries echoed through the house at night, stirring something long buried. Caleb found himself lingering in doorways. Fixing toys he didn't need to fix. Listening. And Eliza noticed. One evening, Thomas grew ill. Feverish and weak. Eliza panicked, holding him close, tears falling freely. "Please," she begged Caleb. "I've already lost so much. I can't lose him too." Caleb didn't hesitate. He rode through the night to fetch the doctor, fighting the storm like a man with everything to lose. Thomas survived. That night, as the boy slept, Caleb stood by the crib longer than he meant to. "I never wanted to care again," he admitted quietly. "Caring hurts. Eliza looked at him, really looked at him, not the rancher, not the dealmaker, but the man who had lost a family and built walls instead. Caring is what makes us human, she said gently. Even when it breaks us. The turning point came in spring. Caleb overheard Eliza praying one night, her voice trembling. God, she whispered, I agreed to give him a future. But I never agreed to stop being his mother. Please, don't take him from me. Something inside Caleb shattered. He realized then the truth he'd been avoiding. The deal had given him hope, but it had cost her everything. The next morning, Caleb did something no one expected. He rode into town and filed new papers. That evening, he placed them on the table. The deal is over, he said. Eliza's heart stopped. You're sending us away? No, he replied. I'm changing it. He slid the papers toward her. You keep your son. I won't claim him as an heir unless he chooses it himself one day. You'll both stay here, because this is your home too. Not out of need. Out of choice. Eliza broke down, sobbing openly. You didn't have to do this, she said. I know, Caleb answered. That's why it matters. Years later, the ranch was filled with laughter. Thomas grew strong, kind, and free, calling Caleb Sir at first, then Father, by his own choosing. Eliza stood beside them, no longer afraid, no longer alone. What began as a cold bargain became something warmer than any contract. Because sometimes, humanity doesn't begin with love. Sometimes, it begins with shelter. And the courage to choose kindness, when no one is watching.